It started innocently enough. I had always been a sucker for mysteries, especially the ones that teetered on the edge of reality. You know the type: unsolved disappearances, eerie coincidences, and the ever-fascinating Bermuda Triangle. It was a lazy Saturday night when I found myself aimlessly scrolling through the web, looking for something new to read. That's when I stumbled upon a post on a forum I had never seen before, tucked away in the darkest corners of the internet. The title caught my eye immediately: "The Bermuda Triangle Exposed, a Portal to Another Dimension." My heart raced with curiosity. The Bermuda Triangle had always intrigued me. You hear the stories of ships and planes vanishing without a trace, of compasses going haywire, and of mysterious lights dancing on the horizon. The fact that even Christopher Columbus noted strange occurrences in his logbook only added to the allure. The post was extensive, filled with theories, eyewitness accounts, and detailed analyses. It was divided into several sections, each delving deeper into the enigma of the Bermuda Triangle. The author, who went by the handle Triangulum42, claimed to have stumbled upon some classified documents and obscure research papers that shed new light on the mystery. The first theory presented was the one that really hooked me: the Bermuda Triangle as a portal to another dimension. It seemed far-fetched at first, like something out of a science fiction novel. But as I read on, the connection started to seem disturbingly plausible. The author referenced the bizarre compass malfunctions reported by Columbus and his crew back in 1492, and how they had witnessed strange lights in the sky that defied explanation. The post went on to discuss the many disappearances over the years: Flight 19, the USS Cyclops, and countless others. Each incident was analyzed in meticulous detail, pointing out the common threads: sudden loss of communication, inexplicable navigation errors, and often a final frantic message before everything went silent. What really unnerved me was the section on Atlantis. According to Triangulum42, there were some who believed that the lost city of Atlantis lay beneath the Bermuda Triangle, its ancient technology interfering with modern instruments and vehicles. The post included several old maps and documents that, when overlaid, pointed suspiciously towards the area now known as the Bermuda Triangle. As I continued reading, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was venturing into dangerous territory. The theories grew more elaborate, and the evidence more compelling. Triangulum42 claimed that the government knew more than they let on, hinting at secret research missions and cover-ups. I looked around my dimly lit room, suddenly aware of the shadows creeping along the walls. It was late, and the quiet hum of my computer was the only sound breaking the silence. The post had drawn me in completely, each paragraph more engrossing than the last. I felt like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole, each revelation pulling me deeper into the mystery. But then, just as I was about to dive into the next section, my computer screen flickered. A chill ran down my spine. For a brief moment, I wondered if I had gone too far. Had my innocent curiosity triggered some sort of alarm? Was someone or something watching me? I quickly closed my browser, my heart pounding in my chest. I sat there for a moment, staring at the dark screen, trying to process everything I had read. It was just a conspiracy theory, right? But the eerie feeling lingered, making it hard to shake off the sense that I had stumbled onto something I was never meant to see. The night passed slowly, my mind racing with thoughts of portals, ancient civilizations, and government secrets. Sleep was elusive, my dreams filled with images of vanished ships and planes slipping through a veil into another world. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of my journey into the heart of the Bermuda Triangle mystery. And as much as I wanted to convince myself it was all just a wild conspiracy, a part of me knew that I had to go back. I had to know more, no matter the cost. The next day, I couldn't get the Bermuda Triangle out of my mind. It nagged at me like an unsolved puzzle, and I knew I had to go back to that forum. My curiosity overpowered any lingering fears from the previous night. After all, it was just an internet post, right? What harm could it do? I sat down at my computer, took a deep breath, and navigated back to the dark web forum. The post by Triangulum42 was still there, waiting for me. This time I noticed there were additional comments from other users. Some dismissed the theories as pure nonsense, while others shared their own strange encounters and experiences within the triangle. I scrolled past these, eager to dive into the next section of the post. This part focused on first-hand accounts from people who had narrowly escaped the Bermuda Triangle's clutches. One story stood out in particular: a commercial pilot flying from Miami to Puerto Rico. Mid-flight, he encountered a strange, swirling cloud formation. His instruments went haywire, and for a terrifying few minutes, he lost all sense of direction. When he finally emerged from the cloud, he was astonished to find that he had traveled hundreds of miles in mere moments. He landed safely, but remained haunted by the experience, unable to explain the bizarre time distortion he had encountered. Another account came from a yacht crew who described an encounter with an uncharted island. They had anchored for the night and awoke to find the island completely gone, replaced by open sea. Their GPS had recorded the island's coordinates, but no official map showed any landmass in that location. The author speculated that these anomalies could be linked to the idea of the Bermuda Triangle being a portal, suggesting that the island might exist in a parallel dimension, only occasionally intersecting with our own. Triangulum 42 also delved into the scientific attempts to understand the Bermuda Triangle. He referenced various studies on magnetic anomalies and underwater topography. One particularly eerie discovery was the existence of massive underwater gas hydrate deposits. These deposits could potentially erupt, releasing huge bubbles of methane gas that might cause ships to lose buoyancy and sink without a trace. It was a chillingly plausible explanation for some of the triangle's mysteries. But the most disturbing part of this section was the mention of secret military experiments. According to Triangulum 42, there were rumors that during World War II, the U.S. Navy had conducted tests involving electromagnetic fields in the Bermuda Triangle. These experiments were said to manipulate space-time, causing ships and planes to vanish. There were whispers of something called Project Rainbow, or the Philadelphia Experiment, where a naval ship allegedly disappeared from Philadelphia and reappeared in Norfolk, Virginia, hundreds of miles away. While officially debunked as a hoax, the connection to the Bermuda Triangle was hard to ignore. As I absorbed all this information, a sense of dread began to creep in. The Bermuda Triangle was no longer just an abstract mystery. It felt tangible and ominous. I couldn't help but wonder if the truth was even stranger than the fiction. The more I read, the more I realized how little we truly knew about this enigmatic region. I decided to leave a comment, hoping to connect with others who shared my curiosity. I wrote, "Has anyone here ever experienced something strange in the Bermuda Triangle? Looking for credible accounts." Almost immediately, replies started pouring in. Some were dismissive, calling me a fool for even entertaining such ideas, but a few were genuinely intriguing, sharing detailed stories of strange encounters and unexplainable events. One user, going by the name Seeker of Truth, claimed to have worked on a government research vessel studying the triangle. He described how their instruments often malfunctioned and how they had lost an unmanned submersible, its last transmission showing a bright flash of light before cutting off. He warned me to be careful, hinting that some knowledge was better left undiscovered. His words lingered in my mind, a stark reminder of the potential danger I was flirting with. Yet, the pull of the unknown was too strong to resist. I knew I had to keep digging, to uncover more about this perplexing and terrifying phenomenon. The Bermuda Triangle had me in its grip, and I wasn't sure if I would ever truly escape its hold. That night as I lay in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about the stories and theories. My dreams were filled with swirling clouds, vanishing islands, and the ominous feeling of being watched. I awoke with a start, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. The Bermuda Triangle had become more than just a mystery. It was an obsession. And so, I prepared myself for what lay ahead, knowing that the deeper I went, the harder it would be to turn back. I had opened a door to something vast and incomprehensible, and there was no closing it now. The next few days were a blur. I found myself diving deeper into the dark web forum, piecing together fragments of information and connecting dots that seemed to span centuries. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how entangled the Bermuda Triangle was with both documented history and shadowy conspiracies. Triangulum 42's post had mentioned something called the Columbus Enigma, referring to Christopher Columbus's documented encounters in the region. His logs from the first voyage are well known, but the forum revealed some lesser-known details that sent shivers down my spine. Columbus described how his compass behaved erratically on several occasions, something that would have unnerved any navigator of his time. More chilling were his notes about strange lights, what he called a great flame of fire, that crashed into the sea and strange lights appearing in the night sky, dancing in ways that defied logic. These details painted a picture of a region fraught with anomalies, and I couldn't help but wonder if Columbus himself had stumbled upon something extraordinary. If someone as historically significant as Columbus had documented these occurrences, what else might be true? In my search, I stumbled upon an old, digitized manuscript of Columbus's logs, cross-referenced with other historical texts. The descriptions were brief, but vivid. The logs described seeing an inexplicable light that moved up and down, which Columbus interpreted as an omen. Sailors of that era were incredibly superstitious, and such an event would have been both terrifying and awe-inspiring. While poring over these ancient texts, I received a direct message on the forum. It was from Seeker of Truth, the user who had previously warned me. His message was cryptic but clear. You're on the right path, but be cautious. Not everything is as it seems. There are forces at play that guard these secrets jealously. The warning was unnerving, but it only fueled my determination. What was so dangerous about this knowledge that it warranted such caution? I decided to reach out to Seeker of Truth, asking if he could share more about his experiences. His response was swift and surprising. He agreed to a private chat. Our conversation took place on a secure, encrypted platform. He revealed that he had been part of a government-funded research team tasked with studying anomalous regions around the globe, with the Bermuda Triangle being a primary focus. According to him, they had documented electromagnetic disturbances, temporal anomalies, and even gravitational fluctuations that defied current scientific understanding. He spoke of a particularly haunting incident where their ship encountered a dense fog. The fog wasn't unusual in appearance, but their instruments went haywire, and the crew reported hearing faint, disembodied voices. The fog seemed to cling to the ship, and they lost communication with the outside world for several hours. When it finally cleared, they found themselves hundreds of miles off course, with no rational explanation for the sudden displacement. Seeker of Truth then dropped a bombshell. There were unconfirmed reports within his team of a government facility hidden deep underwater in the Bermuda Triangle. This facility, he claimed, was researching advanced technologies and possibly remnants of an ancient civilization. The name Atlantis came up again, not as a mythical city, but as a reference to these supposed ancient technologies. As fantastical as it sounded, the consistency of these accounts began to paint a picture that was hard to dismiss. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't just a place of random disappearances. It was a hotbed of activity that seemed to elude our current understanding of physics and reality. The chat ended with another warning. Seeker of Truth advised me to be careful about what I shared and with whom. Some secrets, he said, are protected by those who would do anything to keep them hidden. That night, as I lay in bed, the weight of the information pressed down on me. The Bermuda Triangle was no longer just an intriguing mystery. It was a perilous enigma with layers of secrecy and danger. The stories of Columbus, the time distortions, the strange fog, and the whispers of ancient civilizations all swirled in my mind. The following day, I decided to take a break from the forum. I needed time to process everything. I went for a walk to clear my head, but the normalcy of the world around me only highlighted how strange my journey had become. How many others had stumbled upon these truths and chosen to look away. As I walked, I pondered the next step. I knew I couldn't leave this mystery alone, but I needed to tread carefully. I had touched upon something vast and potentially dangerous, and the last thing I wanted was to attract the wrong kind of attention. Yet, the pull of the Bermuda Triangle remained strong. The more I learned, the more I felt compelled to uncover the full truth, no matter how deep the rabbit hole went. The journey was far from over, and I had a feeling that the most startling revelations were yet to come. The break from my obsessive research didn't last long. The Bermuda Triangle had sunk its hooks deep into my curiosity, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the verge of uncovering something monumental. With a sense of cautious determination, I returned to the dark web forum, ready to delve further into Triangulum 42's extensive post. This section was more technical, delving into the scientific anomalies recorded in the Bermuda Triangle. Triangulum 42 had compiled a wealth of data from various sources, ranging from oceanographic studies to satellite imagery. One striking detail was the unusual water currents within the triangle. Scientists had noted that the currents didn't follow normal patterns and seemed to shift unpredictably, often aligning with the mysterious disappearances. The post detailed how these currents could create vortices strong enough to pull ships under the water, explaining some of the vanished vessels. But there was more. These currents were often accompanied by unusual magnetic fields. Triangulum 42 theorized that these magnetic anomalies could disrupt navigational instruments, contributing to the confusion and subsequent disappearances of many aircraft and ships. A particularly intriguing part of this section involved the findings of a Russian oceanographic team that had ventured into the Bermuda Triangle during the 1980s. Their instruments recorded bizarre readings, including sudden temperature drops and inexplicable pressure changes. The team also reported seeing strange luminescent objects beneath the water's surface, moving in ways that defied explanation. This corroborated the accounts of many sailors and pilots who had witnessed unidentifiable lights, both in the sky and below the sea. Triangulum 42 didn't shy away from addressing the more controversial theories either. One that caught my attention was the concept of spatial anomalies. Some researchers proposed that the Bermuda Triangle might be a region where the fabric of space-time was particularly unstable. This could potentially explain the stories of sudden disappearances and reappearances in different locations. It was a chilling thought. Imagine being caught in a pocket of distorted space, where the normal rules of time and distance no longer applied. There were also reports of unusual radio signals emanating from the triangle. These signals, often dismissed as interference or natural phenomena, had a distinct pattern that suggested intelligence. Triangulum 42 provided audio clips and spectrogram analyses showing the eerie regularity of these signals. They weren't consistent enough to be messages, but were too structured to be mere noise. As I read, I felt a growing unease. These were not just random occurrences, but a pattern of anomalies pointing to something fundamentally strange about the Bermuda Triangle. It was as if the region itself was a living entity, with its own set of rules and behaviors, capable of interacting with those who ventured into it. In the comments section, more users shared their thoughts and experiences. One user, Navigator's Art Jim, claimed to have sailed through the Bermuda Triangle multiple times. He recounted a particularly harrowing journey where his compass spun wildly and he lost all sense of direction. He described seeing a thick, impenetrable fog that seemed to swallow everything it touched. His most disturbing experience, however, was hearing what he described as a chorus of whispers coming from the fog, speaking in a language he couldn't understand. Another user, Tech Enigma, shared a series of photographs taken from a satellite showing strange geometric patterns on the ocean floor within the triangle. These formations, resembling ruins or some sort of large-scale structure, were not present in any official oceanographic maps. This lent credence to the theory of an ancient civilization like Atlantis, possibly lying beneath the waters. The forum discussions were intense and fascinating, but they also carried an undercurrent of fear. Many users, like Seeker of Truth, warned of the dangers of probing too deeply. There were hints of disappearances among those who got too close to uncovering the truth. Stories of researchers who had gone missing or faced inexplicable misfortunes. Despite the warnings, I felt compelled to continue. The Bermuda Triangle was more than a mystery. It was a gateway to understanding something profound about our world. I spent hours cross-referencing the data with other sources, reaching out to experts in oceanography and electromagnetic fields. Some responded with interest, while others dismissed my inquiries as fantastical nonsense. One night, while poring over a particularly dense research paper on magnetic anomalies, I received another message from Seeker of Truth. "We need to talk," it read. "I have information that can't be shared online." My heart raced as I agreed to a video call. When his face appeared on the screen, it was clear he was anxious. He revealed that his team had discovered something during their last mission, something they weren't supposed to find. They had come across a massive underwater structure, clearly man-made and ancient, emitting powerful electromagnetic waves. Before they could investigate further, they were ordered to leave the area and return to base. Seeker of Truth shared grainy underwater footage of the structure, a massive pyramid-like formation covered in strange symbols and partially encrusted with marine life. He believed this was the source of many of the Bermuda Triangle's anomalies, potentially an artifact from a lost civilization with technology far beyond our understanding. Our conversation ended with a final chilling warning. "Be careful," he said. "You're getting too close. There are those who will do anything to keep these secrets buried." As the call ended, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. The Bermuda Triangle was more than a place of disappearances. It was a nexus of ancient mysteries and hidden truths. I knew I was venturing into dangerous waters, but there was no turning back now. The deeper I went, the more determined I became to uncover the reality behind the legend. After my conversation with Seeker of Truth, I felt a renewed sense of urgency. The underwater footage he shared was unlike anything I had ever seen, and it was clear that the Bermuda Triangle harbored secrets far beyond our current understanding. The possibility of an ancient, technologically advanced civilization being the source of the region's anomalies was both thrilling and terrifying. Determined to learn more, I continued my research. I reached out to oceanographers, historians, and even amateur archaeologists, hoping to find someone who could shed light on the mysterious underwater structure. Responses were mixed. Some were intrigued, while others dismissed my inquiries as the ramblings of a conspiracy theorist. However, one contact stood out, Dr. Emily Hart, a marine archaeologist with a keen interest in unexplained phenomena. Dr. Hart agreed to meet with me via video call. She had heard rumors about the Bermuda Triangle and had even conducted some research of her own. When I showed her the footage from Seeker of Truth, she was visibly stunned. She confirmed that the structure bore similarities to known ancient architectures, but was unlike anything she had seen before. "There are symbols here that resemble both Mayan and Egyptian hieroglyphs," she said, leaning closer to her screen. "It's possible that this could be a relic from a lost civilization, one that predates our recorded history." Dr. Hart's enthusiasm was infectious. She suggested we collaborate to further investigate the site. Her connections within the scientific community could provide the resources and expertise needed to mount an expedition. We decided to keep our plans discreet, mindful of the warnings about the potential dangers of uncovering these secrets. In the meantime, I continued to monitor the dark web forum. Triangulum 42's post had sparked renewed interest and discussion, with more users sharing their theories and experiences. One particular thread caught my attention. An anonymous user claimed to have intercepted government communications about a covert operation in the Bermuda Triangle. According to the user, the operation involved the recovery of an artifact of significant importance. The implications were staggering. If the government was indeed involved in recovering ancient artifacts from the Bermuda Triangle, it lent credence to the theories of advanced, hidden technologies and civilizations. The user provided no further details, but it was enough to fuel my determination. Dr. Hart and I worked tirelessly to prepare for our expedition. We secured funding, gathered a team of experts, and acquired the necessary equipment for deep-sea exploration. It was an ambitious project, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. Finally, the day arrived. Our team set sail from Miami, heading towards the coordinates provided by Seeker of Truth. The journey was tense, with an undercurrent of anticipation and anxiety. As we approached the Bermuda Triangle, the weather began to shift, and an eerie fog enveloped our vessel. It was reminiscent of the stories I had read, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Our instruments started to behave erratically, just as the accounts had described. Compasses spun wildly, and our GPS struggled to maintain a signal. Yet, we pressed on, driven by the knowledge that we were on the brink of a groundbreaking discovery. As we neared the site, the fog began to lift, revealing the ocean's surface below. We deployed our underwater drones, equipped with high-resolution cameras and sensors. The initial descent was slow and methodical, the murky depths gradually giving way to clearer views. Then we saw it, the massive pyramid-like structure that Seeker of Truth had described. It was even more awe-inspiring in person, a testament to an ancient civilization's ingenuity. Our drones captured detailed footage of the structure, revealing intricate carvings and symbols that hinted at a complex and advanced society. Dr. Hart and the team were ecstatic, their excitement palpable. We spent hours documenting every aspect of the structure, gathering data that would take years to fully analyze. The discoveries we made would undoubtedly rewrite history and expand our understanding of human civilization. But amid the excitement, there was a lingering sense of caution. The warnings from Seeker of Truth and the forum users echoed in my mind. We were delving into unknown territories, and the implications of our findings were profound. As we concluded our expedition and began our journey back, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. What had started as idle curiosity had transformed into a quest for truth, uncovering secrets buried deep within the ocean and shrouded in mystery. The Bermuda Triangle, once a source of fear and speculation, had revealed itself as a nexus of ancient wonders and scientific anomalies. The stories of strange lights, vanishing ships, and distorted time were not mere fantasies, but fragments of a larger, more complex reality. Back on land, our findings were met with both skepticism and awe. The scientific community was abuzz with debates and discussions, and the public's fascination with the Bermuda Triangle was reignited. Dr. Hart and I continued our research, determined to uncover more about the ancient civilization and the technologies they possessed. In the end, the Bermuda Triangle remained an enigma, but it was no longer a mystery to be feared. It was a reminder of humanity's insatiable curiosity and the endless possibilities that lay beneath the surface of our world. As I looked out at the horizon, I knew that the journey was far from over, and there were still many secrets left to uncover. Before I get into this story, I am sorry for everyone that will listen to me pronouncing the name of the mountain wrong, probably. So sorry for that, but still enjoy the story. Hey everyone! I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but I guess that's what the internet is for, right? A place where we can all spill our weird, creepy experiences without feeling too judged. So, buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride. It all started a few months ago when I was browsing Reddit late at night. I came across a post in one of those conspiracy theory subreddits about the mountain Artanj in Serbia. For those of you who haven't heard of it, Artanj is this mountain that's shaped like a giant pyramid, yeah, like the ones in Egypt, except this one is covered in greenery and looks more natural. Anyway, the post was talking about how there's something off about the mountain. Magnetic disturbances, strange occurrences, you name it. Naturally, I was intrigued. I mean, who wouldn't be? A pyramid-shaped mountain with a bunch of creepy stories attached to it. Count me in. So, I started doing some digging. One of the first things I found was a series of videos showing cars seemingly moving uphill on their own. No one was driving them. It was like some invisible force was pulling them up the mountain. Some people said it was just an optical illusion or something to do with the angle of the road. But then I found more footage, this time taken from multiple angles, and it didn't look like an illusion at all. I started reading about magnetic disturbances in the area. Scientists have supposedly measured weird magnetic fields around Artanj, and there's a theory that this could explain the car phenomenon. But here's where it gets creepy. There were also reports of electronic devices malfunctioning, compasses spinning wildly, and even watches stopping altogether when near the mountain. It sounded like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but then things took an even darker turn. As I continued my research, I found myself on the darker corners of the internet, the kind of places you're warned about, but can't resist visiting once your curiosity gets the better of you. I stumbled upon a forum dedicated to unexplained mysteries and found a thread about Artanj. This is where things got really disturbing. People were sharing stories about strange lights in the sky above the mountain. Not just any lights, but ones that moved in ways no aircraft or drone could. Some even claimed to have seen UFOs hovering around Artanj, and a few posts mentioned encounters with strange beings. At first, I thought it was all just a bunch of overactive imaginations and late-night tall tales. But then I saw a post by someone who claimed to be a former government employee. They talked about how Artanj was on a list of sites known for unexplained phenomena, and that there had been secret investigations into the area. I didn't know what to believe. Was it all just a bunch of nonsense, or was there something more to it? To make matters worse, I found a link to a leaked document supposedly from a Serbian government agency. It mentioned anomalous magnetic activity and referenced several incidents of people going missing near the mountain. The document even hinted at a possible connection to extraterrestrial activity. I spent hours going through these threads and documents, growing more and more paranoid. My heart was racing, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. It was late, and I was the only one awake in the house. Every little noise made me jump. I decided to call it a night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled onto something I wasn't supposed to see. The next morning, I woke up feeling uneasy. I couldn't stop thinking about Artanj and all the strange things I had read. Part of me wanted to forget about it and move on, but another part of me needed to know more. I decided to dig even deeper, not realizing that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change my life forever. Hey everyone, if you thought the first part was creepy, just wait until you hear what happened next. I couldn't stop thinking about the weird stuff I'd discovered about Mountain Artanj, and the more I thought about it, the more I needed to find out what was really going on. The morning after my late-night deep dive into Ortange's mysteries, I decided to check out the mountain myself. I'm not exactly a spontaneous person, but something about this whole thing was drawing me in like a moth to a flame. I managed to convince a couple of my friends to join me. Let's call them Mike and Sarah. They were skeptical but intrigued enough to tag along. We planned a weekend trip to Serbia. Getting there was surprisingly easy, and soon we were driving through the picturesque Serbian countryside. As we approached Ortange, the mountain's distinctive pyramid shape loomed on the horizon. It looked even more imposing in real life, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Our first stop was a small village at the base of the mountain. The locals were friendly enough, but seemed wary when we mentioned Ortange. One old man sitting outside a cafe caught our attention. He motioned for us to come closer and told us stories about the mountain, stories that were even more unsettling than what I'd read online. He spoke of strange lights at night, unexplained disappearances, and bizarre magnetic anomalies. He mentioned a local legend that the mountain was actually a giant pyramid built by an ancient civilization with knowledge far beyond our own. Some even believed that it was a gateway to another world. As he spoke, his eyes had a haunted look, like he had seen things he couldn't explain. Armed with this new information, we decided to hike up the mountain. We started our ascent early the next morning. The trail was steep and winding, but the views were breathtaking. As we climbed higher, our phones started acting up. GPS signals were erratic, and our compasses were useless. It was like the mountain itself was messing with our electronics. About halfway up, we reached a flat, open area with an unobstructed view of the peak. That's when we saw it. A faint, glowing light hovering near the summit. At first, we thought it was a trick of the light, but as we watched, it moved in a way that no natural light source could. It darted back and forth, then shot straight up into the sky and disappeared. We stood there in stunned silence, trying to process what we had just witnessed. We decided to press on, driven by a mix of curiosity and a growing sense of dread. The higher we climbed, the more we felt an almost tangible energy in the air. It was like the mountain was alive, pulsating with some unseen force. We finally reached the summit in the late afternoon. The view was incredible, but the atmosphere was eerie. There was an old stone structure at the top. Nothing grand, just a small weathered building that looked like it had been there for centuries. As we explored the summit, Mike found something strange. A small, metallic object partially buried in the dirt. It was about the size of a deck of cards with strange symbols etched into its surface. None of us could identify the symbols, but they looked ancient, like something out of an archaeological dig. We took photos of the object and decided to head back down before it got dark. The descent was uneventful, but we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being followed. When we finally reached the village, it was almost dusk. The old man was still at the cafe, and when we showed him the photos of the object, his face went pale. He muttered something in Serbian and hurried away, refusing to speak to us any further. That night, we stayed at a small inn in the village. None of us slept well. We kept hearing strange noises outside our windows, whispers, footsteps, and what sounded like distant chanting. In the morning, we decided it was time to leave. As we packed up, Sarah noticed something odd. Her watch, which had stopped working halfway up the mountain, was now ticking backwards. We tried to laugh it off as a glitch, but it only added to the growing list of bizarre occurrences. We left Serbia with more questions than answers. What was the glowing light? What was the strange object we found at the summit? And why did the old man react so strongly to it? As soon as we got back home, I started digging deeper into Ortange's mysteries, determined to uncover the truth. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this journey. If you've been following along, you know that our trip to Mountain Ortange was nothing short of bizarre. After returning home, the mystery of the strange object we found at the summit kept gnawing at me. I knew I had to figure out what those symbols meant. As soon as we got back, I uploaded the photos of the object to my computer and started scouring the internet for any information on the symbols. I posted the images on a few archaeology and ancient history forums, hoping someone might recognize them. To my surprise, one of the forum members replied almost immediately. He claimed to be an expert in ancient scripts and said the symbols looked similar to a mix of ancient Sumerian and Egyptian hieroglyphs. This was weird because these cultures were separated by thousands of miles and years. How could symbols from such different origins end up on a mountain in Serbia? I decided to contact the expert directly. Let's call him Dr. Thompson. We arranged a video call and I showed him the photos in more detail. Dr. Thompson was fascinated and puzzled. He said the symbols were unlike anything he'd seen before, but confirmed that they bore a striking resemblance to ancient scripts. He suggested that the object might be some kind of artifact left behind by an unknown civilization, or even something extraterrestrial, though he admitted that was a bit far-fetched. Dr. Thompson asked if he could share the photos with some colleagues. I agreed, hoping they might provide more insight. Meanwhile, I continued my own research, diving into the history and legends surrounding Ratanj. I found references to the mountain in old Serbian folklore. One story spoke of a hidden treasure buried deep within the mountain, guarded by supernatural forces. Another tale mentioned that Ratanj was a place of great power, a beacon for beings from other worlds. A few days later, Dr. Thompson got back to me. He had shown the photos to several other experts, and while no one could definitively identify the symbols, they all agreed that the object was significant. One theory was that the symbols were part of a lost language, possibly used by an ancient civilization that had settled in the area, long before recorded history. Another expert suggested that the object could be some sort of ancient navigational tool, possibly connected to the magnetic anomalies reported around Ratanj. As intriguing as these theories were, they didn't bring me any closer to understanding the true nature of the object. Then something unexpected happened. Mike called me, sounding more excited than I'd ever heard him. He said he had been messing around with the photos in a photo editing software and noticed something strange. When he adjusted the contrast and brightness, additional symbols and markings that were not visible to the naked eye began to appear. We immediately met up at my place to examine the edited photos. Sure enough, there were faint symbols etched into the object that we hadn't seen before. Some of them looked like constellations, while others resembled more complex geometric patterns. It was like the object was a puzzle, hiding its secrets in plain sight. Sarah suggested we overlay the new symbols with a map of the night sky. We spent hours comparing the photos to star charts, and eventually, we found a match. The constellations corresponded to specific stars that were directly above Ratanj on certain dates. It was like the object was pointing us to something, but what? As we delved deeper, we began to notice a pattern. The dates the constellations pointed to seemed to align with reports of unusual activity around the mountain, sightings of strange lights, electronic disturbances, and even the disappearances. It was as if the object was mapping out times when the mountain's strange phenomena were at their peak. The realization sent chills down my spine. What if the object was some kind of ancient calendar or guide, marking periods of heightened activity, or even openings to another dimension? The implications were mind-boggling, and more than a little frightening. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me. If you've been following the story, you know we've uncovered some pretty strange stuff about Mountain Ratanj. After figuring out that the object we found seemed to be pointing to specific dates when unusual activities occurred, we decided to go back. This time, we were better prepared. We chose a date that was just a few weeks away, coinciding with one of the constellations the object pointed to. I managed to get some time off work, and Mike and Sarah were both on board for another trip. We packed our bags with more gear, better cameras, portable battery packs, and even a small drone to capture aerial footage. We also brought along some basic scientific equipment, an EMF detector, a Geiger counter, and a set of walkie-talkies to stay in constant communication. We arrived in the village at the base of Ratanj the day before the date marked by the object. The atmosphere was tense, the villagers seemed more on edge than before, and there were whispers about a bad time approaching. The old man at the cafe was nowhere to be seen, and when we asked about him, the locals just shook their heads and avoided eye contact. That night, we double-checked our equipment and went over our plan. We would hike up to the summit early in the morning and set up camp near the stone structure. We hoped to capture any unusual activity on our cameras and sensors. The hike up was as challenging as before, but we made good time and reached the summit by midday. The air felt charged, and there was a strange stillness around the peak. We set up our equipment and waited, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. As the sun began to set, the temperature dropped sharply, and a thick fog rolled in, obscuring our view. It was eerie, to say the least. Our EMF detector started picking up sporadic readings. Nothing too alarming, but definitely unusual. The Geiger counter, however, remained steady, showing normal levels of radiation. Around midnight, things started to get really strange. The fog seemed to glow faintly, and we could see the same faint light we had observed during our previous visit. This time, though, it was closer, hovering just above the stone structure. We watched in awe as the light pulsed rhythmically, almost like it was breathing. Suddenly, our walkie-talkies crackled to life with static, and we heard a faint, garbled voice. It was impossible to make out what it was saying, but it sent chills down our spines. Mike tried to respond, but the static drowned out his voice. The EMF detector was going crazy, spiking off the charts. Sarah, who was manning the drone, launched it to get a better view of the light. As the drone ascended, the light seemed to react, moving away from the structure and towards the edge of the summit. We followed it cautiously, keeping the drone in sight. Then we saw it, a large circular depression in the ground that we had somehow missed before. It was perfectly round and looked like it had been there for centuries. The light hovered over the depression, growing brighter and more intense. Our cameras were recording everything, but the footage couldn't capture the sheer intensity of the experience. The light pulsed faster, and the air felt like it was vibrating. We felt an overwhelming sense of anticipation, as if something monumental was about to happen. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the light shot straight up into the sky and vanished. The fog lifted, and everything went back to normal. The EMF detector stopped spiking, and the walkie-talkies were clear again. It was as if nothing had happened, but we knew better. We approached the circular depression cautiously. It was filled with strange symbols, similar to those on the object we had found. We took as many photos as we could, documenting every detail. There was a palpable energy in the air, like the aftermath of a powerful storm. As dawn broke, we packed up and made our way back down the mountain. We were exhausted, but exhilarated. We knew we had witnessed something incredible, something that defied explanation. When we returned home, we analyzed the footage and data we had collected. The drone's camera had captured the light's movements in stunning detail, and our sensors had recorded significant electromagnetic fluctuations. The circular depression and its symbols remained a mystery, but we had plenty of material to study. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. If you've been following along, you know that our trips to Mountain Artange have been nothing short of extraordinary. After returning from our second visit, we had a ton of data and footage to analyze. What we discovered was beyond anything we could have imagined. Back home, we spent weeks poring over the photos, videos, and sensor readings. The footage from the drone was particularly compelling. It showed the light's intricate movements and the way it interacted with the environment. We also focused on the circular depression and its symbols, trying to decipher their meaning. Sarah, who had a background in computer science, suggested we run the symbols through a pattern recognition algorithm. We fed the images into the software, hoping to find a match with known languages or symbols. The results were astonishing. While there was no direct match, the algorithm identified similarities to both ancient Sumerian and Egyptian hieroglyphs, as well as a few undeciphered scripts from other ancient cultures. This reinforced Dr. Thompson's theory that the object and the symbols were the work of an advanced, possibly unknown civilization. The geometric patterns we found also corresponded to mathematical concepts that were far ahead of their time. It was like the object was a piece of a larger puzzle, one that spanned centuries and continents. Then, one evening, as I was going through the footage for the umpteenth time, I noticed something odd. In the moments when the light pulsed the strongest, the symbols on the object seemed to glow faintly. It was barely perceptible, but it was there. I immediately called Mike and Sarah over, and we spent hours analyzing those frames. We hypothesized that the light and the object were somehow connected, like keys to unlocking the mountain's secrets. We decided to reach out to Dr. Thompson again and shared our findings. He was thrilled and suggested that we might be on the verge of a major discovery. He connected us with a group of researchers who specialized in ancient technologies and unexplained phenomena. They were intrigued by our story and agreed to help. Working together, we began to piece together a theory. The symbols in the light seemed to indicate that Artange was more than just a mountain. It was some kind of ancient machine or device. The electromagnetic anomalies, the strange lights, and the magnetic disturbances could all be side effects of this device's operation. But what was its purpose? We looked into the local legends again, focusing on the stories of a hidden treasure and supernatural forces. What if the treasure wasn't gold or jewels, but knowledge, an ancient repository of information or a device that could alter our understanding of the world. It was a long shot, but it fit the pieces we had. To test our theory, we decided to create a 3D model of the object and the symbols. With the help of the researchers, we built a digital simulation of our plunge, incorporating all the data we had gathered. We ran countless scenarios, adjusting for different variables like magnetic fields and light patterns. Finally, after weeks of trial and error, we made a breakthrough. The simulation showed that at certain times of the year, when the stars aligned in specific ways, the mountain could act as a kind of signal booster, amplifying and transmitting electromagnetic waves. This explained the strange lights and the anomalies. It was like the mountain was communicating with something or someone. Our discovery attracted attention from various scientific communities, and soon we were collaborating with experts from around the world. We still didn't have all the answers, but we were closer than ever to understanding the true nature of mountain retunge. As I sit here writing this, I can't help but marvel at how far we've come. What started as a late-night curiosity on Reddit turned into an adventure that revealed one of the world's hidden wonders. Mountain retunge remains a mystery, but it's a mystery we're unraveling bit by bit. So, if you ever find yourself in Serbia, take a trip to Retunge. Hike to the summit, feel the energy in the air, and remember that sometimes the most incredible discoveries begin with a single spark of curiosity. Thanks for reading, and stay curious. Who knows what other mysteries are waiting to be uncovered? Stay tuned, because our journey with Retunge is far from over. There's still so much to learn, and I promise to keep you updated with every new discovery.